I'm camped on Dunstan Lake in the middle of Woodland Caribou Provincial Park. This is day 9 of my 24-day solo trip, and I'm taking a day off today relaxing. Dunstan Lake's a beautiful lake. You're only seeing a tiny part of it here. This is an island, which I'll show you around. And it's kind of in the middle of the lake, so there's a lot of lake on the other side and going north. So let's do a little walkabout here of a little part of my island. So others have camped here before many times. There's lots of evidence of that, but this is interesting. It's not marked on the camp or on the park campsite map. This is I did not make this, but I fixed it up. It's got a beautiful chimney rock there. There's an upper tier where somebody has made a monstrosity of a fire set up. I don't know why people go to so much work making these gigantic things. I guess that rock was in place. They had to put this one here. But this is further away from the water and I don't need it. If you notice, there's a lot of dead trees all over the place, blown down. The park was hit in the late fall of 2011 with a super heavy, wet snowstorm followed by strong winds. And there was a huge snow down, blow down effect. The tops of trees are snapped off everywhere, mostly the jack pine, and it affected the entire park. So when you come to this part of the boreal forest, always bring a saw, like a big bow saw, an extra blade, an axe, if you're comfortable using an axe, because you're likely going to need it. I had to remove quite a lot of debris to set up my tarp. My tent pad had been cleared. Somebody else had used that, so it was fine, but I had to make that tarp spot essentially. This is almost all pine and spruce. There's a little bit of birch here, and I seem to be off the silt cap, the clay and silt cap that I came from further north along the blood vein system, and that will tie into as I move further south on my trip into the Gammon River system. But this is in between, and this is all bare rock essentially, very shallow soil and very open. Well, very open except for all the blowdown that's closed it down. We're up in Woodland Caribou Range, and here are some old pellets. And I'm in a more open-stalked area with predominantly unforested rock knobs, so this gets quite intense in other more densely forested parts of the park here. So this is almost all jack pine that came down, although it's mostly jack pine growing here on this island. So you get lots of bent over trees and a lot of trees that bent and snapped off and their tops are down. and some permanently bent. The trees aren't very big here on this island because there's no soil. It's amazing they can grow here at all. So it's quite, like I said, open stalked, but it'll be denser stalked. There's the bottom of a slope. There's more moisture at the bottom of the slope, and there'll be more soil just before the lake, so it'll be denser stalk down there. But some of the lower elevations didn't get hit quite as hard as the tops of the hills. So this caused a big problem with the portage trails and campsites in the park, but the crews have been out, park crews and private sector outfitter crews, such as Red Lake Outfitters out of Red Lake, have been doing enormous work over the past few seasons, clearing up this on the portage trails. Although there's so many campsites, they can't get to them all, and I had to clear some debris on several sites that I've camped on so far this trip. But that's okay. It takes a few minutes with a saw. This jack pine, a lot of they're not big trees, and you can rip through them. I have a 21-inch bow saw. 24 would be better, but I'm traveling solo, so just for lightness. And you know, that's 4 or 5 inches diameter, so you can rip through that, and human beings can grab half a tree and throw it out of the way. And I'm doing that by myself, so with 2 or 3 guys working a tree, it's amazing. You can lift a lot of these trees out of the way yourself. Just cut them in 2 or 3 pieces. So yeah, as I say in many videos, when you're in the boreal forest, traveling on a canoe trip, and certainly in winter, always have a bow saw or a takedown saw with a lot of gap, a lot of capacity for cutting through at least 6-inch logs at least. And I always bring an axe, because sometimes if it's bigger, you can cut partway down, open a V with the axe, and then finish the cut. Yep, the power of snow and wind. This pink flower is fireweed. It's got a good name. It comes in thick after fires. It loves disturbance. And we've got a blowdown here. And there's lots of sun gaps opening. So from the fireweed's perspective, it's just like a fire, and it's a good opportunity for those seeds that were dormant in the soil to take off. And fireweed are big nectar producers. There's a beetle, sort of looks like a bee, but I think that's a beetle there, chowing down on some nectar. There's one of our native bees. Oh, it just took off. There's another insect in there, getting a meal. There's one of our native bees doing its work. There's one of our bumblebees. Always hard to keep up with. Water's on the boil there. I got my kitchen stuff all around me here. Beautiful weather. Day 9 today of my 24-day solo trip. It was a rest day here. I stayed in camp. Just puttered around looking at the forest, doing some laundry, just checking out the island I'm camping on. Did some reading. Yep. I need to plan trips with more rest days in between the travel days. I think I'll stay here another day tomorrow and try some fishing if the weather is good. This is a piece of jack pine. The reason I'm trimming the branches is because I'm going to cut this up into blocks and then split it and then feed it under my cooking grill. So I don't like the sticks sticking out because I have to feed through a space like that under my grill. So I'll saw this up and then split it. I was lucky to be able to catch one walleye. It was not easy fishing. Fished for 2 hours and that's all I got. And we'll put some Tex-Mex on it to start it off. There we go. Into the fire. Had to break it up because there's fat pieces and skinny pieces, but I think it's done now. Fresh walleye.